Hi, you're listening to Commissioning Conversations with Hannah and Alice.
We just wanted to start the podcast by saying thank you to everyone who has listened so far and let you know we'll be taking a short break until the start of July.
We also want to say thank you to all our guests that have appeared on the show, so if you are interested in appearing on a future Commissioning Conversations, please get in touch at info@broadcastintel.com.
Today I'm joined with two wonderful people and funny people from Red Planet Pictures. We've got Alex Jones, who's joined MD, and along with him is executive producer Tim Kay. So Red Planet Pictures are responsible for producing the BBC One hit crime drama Death in Paradise, alongside producing a range of high-end dramas for likes of ITV, Sky and many others. So guys, welcome to our podcast. And I firstly was thinking that you two are very much used to seeing yourselves in this environment in each other's living rooms. So how has it been working together? Kind of in a new way.
It's weird, isn't it? I just feel like everyone's had to get used to this sort of massive intrusion in just offering up their home. It's weird. It's working fine, actually. I think it's working fine for us, and we're in touch as much as we ever were, and we're managing to be very productive. But at the same time, I'm just always very aware that you are just asking people to give up something that's quite private to them, which is their home, and that everyone's situations are very different, and some people are sort of working in offices at home and other people are perched on the edges of their beds, because that's the only space they can have. So the whole thing is strange, but I think we're managing to carry on sort of as productively as possible. It's just so strange.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm sure everyone probably has a similar view that there's some things that they like about it that can sort of be a bit more effective and time-wise, saves you running around so much. But, I think lots of times nothing beats sort of sitting sort of face to face with someone in a room. So I think, we're adapting as everyone else is. And I think the fact that everyone's in the same situation, so it's not like, you're uniquely trying to deal with something that the rest of the world isn't really dealing.
So guys, being a drama production company, I wondered if you could kind of take stock of where you guys are at the moment and share maybe some of your thoughts and feelings.
I mean, I suppose, obviously the first thing for us really is that we've had to suspend production on Death in Paradise, which is not ideal for many, many reasons. And we're coping with that for now. I think we, like everyone else, is looking at when and how we can restart production, and what is and isn't possible, what sort of restrictions are going to be in place. So I think that's so that production side of things is one set of challenges, and then obviously the other side of things, the development and the new projects. I think it's been busier than ever, remarkably so, and our development team and the creative team have been working extremely hard, and I think a lot of the commissioners, or certainly the ones that we've been dealing with more recently, have been prepared to engage over sort of Zoom, Google Hangouts, all those sort of things. So we've kind of managed to keep traction on a lot of our development projects. But clearly we're going to be going into a new sort of era where, the companies, the broadcasters are affected by the ad revenue slump, and, and how that's going to knock on to us. I think, it's gonna probably be more challenging the other side of this in some ways. But I guess we kind of just have to continue to sort of push hard on developing good ideas and hope we can still find homes for them.
Are you pitching new ideas in that mix as well to commissioners? Is there an appetite for new stuff, or not just stuff that you've already have been in conversation with?
It's varying from broadcaster to broadcaster, as we
Okay.
all know, about who's sort of open to ideas and who's kind of put the brakes on a little bit at the moment. But there seems to still be an appetite for hearing what we've got to offer, and a lot of people are looking for content still, which is obviously fantastic. So we're carrying on as close to normal as we possibly can.
Sort of, like with Channel 4, they've, I think they furloughed a chunk of their sort of commissioning team, but so clearly sort of Channel 4 and Sky, and I think some of those guys have possibly sort of frozen some of the development side of things. But, we're continuing to engage with who we can. And we've also been pitching in the US as well, which is happening via Zoom. But, that's happened with the HBO Maxes, the CW and Apple and Amazon and those guys. So I think, I do think sort of people are still engaging, and people don't want to have these kind of massive holes in their content schedules at the other side of this.
With Death in Paradise in particular, that we were actually very fortunate because we hadn't started filming, and we were about 5 weeks off the shoot. We'd only flown a few people out to Guadeloupe. Of all the times for this to happen, it kind of happened at a time that we could contain it and control it as much as possible. And we turned people around and flew them straight back home. If we'd have been in, if the shoot had started, it would have been a very different story for us. But I don't want to use the word lucky, but I think it is the right word in a way, that we were lucky that it happened to us when it did, because we were able to sort of hit pause and plan very quickly about how we would look to kind of remounting when we were able to.
And have you been supported by the BBC in this with the commissioners? Like, what's the process of hitting the pause and the support that you've been given?
We've been hugely supported because they totally understand the situation that everybody finds themselves in. And we have a great relationship, I'm not just saying this, but genuinely a really good relationship with the BBC and with our commissioning editor there as well. And we're 10 series into Death in Paradise, and they know us very well and they trust us. So when we were speaking to them, they just knew we had to do what we had to do. And they knew that there were every other production doing the exact same thing, and some of them in more perilous states, than we were, or they just started, or they were just nearing the end of a shoot. So they've been great, and they've been very collaborative, and we've told them that obviously we want to get going as soon as it's practical and possible to do so. And so they've just backed us, basically.
Are you having any kind of indications on shifts maybe in the types of dramas that will be made? Do you think you'll see a kind of shift in shows, that kind of genres that will suffer, like period dramas that require big crews and things like that?
It's a little bit early to tell on some of those areas. I mean, it's really difficult because, you sort of hope for the best, plan for the worst sort of thing. But I think that's actually quite hard to do at the moment, looking at a worst case scenario, because I think, what would have been a worst case scenario once upon a time is not what the worst case scenario sort of is at the moment. And I think we can all kind of kill ourselves and send ourselves to an early death if we're trying to sort of preempt everything that's going on at the moment. And I think that there's a lot of sort of thought and consideration that's going into the challenges that you would be faced with. But until we have a slightly better indication of what those restrictions are going to be and how long they're going to last, I think it's impossible to say whether it's, should we be able to return to sort of, near as damn it sort of production by sort of 21, by next year, or will there still be sort of elements of social distancing and will there be tests by that point? And this, it's so many unknowns. And I think that commissioners are probably, being mindful about what they can realistically expect to be delivered at the moment, but whether they've made a full shift of any kind of commissioning decisions on that, I don't know.
Have you guys looked at doing any kind of the short form lockdown dramas that people are kind of experimenting with a bit, or are you kind of just focusing on like your standard, what you guys have got and you're developing at the moment?
It's more the latter. I think we're pushing forward with the stuff that we had already, and of course thinking about how this impacts everything. I think that there will be more of an appetite for slightly more sort of optimistic programs and dramas, and that's something that our company has sort of done a lot of, and so we're kind of continuing as we were for that. But like Alex says, at the same time, just trying to sort of consider every way this could possibly play out, and also accepting that it's very different for every single production. A show that's shooting in London is going to face different challenges to a show that's shooting in the Lake District, or a show that's shooting in Guadeloupe, or a show that's shooting somewhere else. And I think that's why I think Alex and I completely agree that it's sort of better for us to take it all on board, but also not to sort of try and panic and veer off in any particular directions, but to sort of to really work hard at what we've been doing and what we do as a company.
So I was wondering if you guys could tell me if you're working with any other broadcasters in the UK at the moment.
We're obviously making Death in Paradise for BBC One. We've got development projects in with ITV as well, and UKTV. We obviously made Sanderson for ITV, which went out at the end of last year and has more recently gone out in the US and done really, really well, which has been really encouraging. Sadly, the figures didn't quite sort of stack up for ITV to enable them to sort of recommission the show. So we are still exploring whether there's ways to bring that back for a sort of another season. We have this amazing Sanderson sisterhood who are this fantastic group of fans who have been writing in, and all the mail that has been coming in has just been crazy and amazing, and so we continue to try and work to sort of make another series of Sanderson happen.
If it picked up in the US, is that somewhere you're kind of hoping could take the project on?
Yeah, I think it's looking, I think the US alone at the moment that won't necessarily be able to sort of fully finance it. So we're just trying to sort of see if we can pull together the money to make it happen.
Maybe just to return to what you were saying about still pitching and having a big appetite in the US. And are these existing relationships, or are you still managing to set up new meetings and meet with new channels even through the lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, we're working with a partner out in the US, another producer who set up a lot of those meetings. So we've been in on those pitches. But I think, it feels, the sense I'm getting is that those calls and those pitches are still happening, and that people are still trying to continue sort of doing business as much as possible. And if you can't physically shoot the shows at the moment, then focus on development, which I think pretty much what everyone is doing. So of course that's gonna kind of increase competition, but the sense that I'm getting is that everyone is still very much trying to kind of keep some momentum behind development
as well. I guess like a longer development just makes for better shows sometimes, if you can get super more detailed that you wouldn't have had before. Is that something that you guys are seeing? Or
I think from a sort of a new development point of view, of course, if we can manage to secure a commission, but let's work on the basis that we're not going to shoot it until sort of earlier next year, then that could potentially give us a really nice sort of lead-in period to sort of develop the scripts, etc. And on Death in Paradise, and I'll let Tim talk, but it's going to be great because when we get ready to go out there, all the scripts are going to be finished.
Which, of course, happens every year anyway, without any challenges whatsoever, as anyone who's ever worked on this show will testify. No, I mean, we the first thing we decided, obviously, was that the shoot was paused, but the script process would continue. So it's very important to us that when we start up, we've got the scripts ready to go, and that gives our teams the best chance possible of adapting to whatever the new restrictions and procedures are going to be. And I think that, again, we are fortunate in Guadeloupe in that I think a lot of some of the things that we're likely to be asked to do, or that we will want to do because of coronavirus, we sort of do versions of anyway. We're not filming in densely populated areas. We do film outdoors an awful lot. We eat outdoors pretty much every day. There's a lot of things like that. And we're not shooting huge crowd scenes. There's a lot of those kind of things are sort of stacked to our advantage. So we know that there will be the unforeseen sort of implications as well. So again, getting the scripts ready up front is the least we can do to make sure that the production can get started, and trying to use that time constructively, obviously, to accept that the scripts will probably have to change because of whatever regulations are put in place, but trying to just make sure that we're ready for everything other than that, basically.
And are they kind of the biggest logistical tasks you have kind of going?
On Death in Paradise?
Yeah.
Well, yes, in as much as I don't know anyone who's been through anything quite like this before. But that said, we've faced a lot of challenges on our show, and we're pretty used to sort of rolling with the punches and reacting quickly. And we've had a lot of things happen over the 10 years we've been making the show, not least the weather out there, which, we filmed sort of starting in the dry season but then hitting the wet season, which means that there are tropical storms, electrical storms, the occasional hurricane. There was one year in particular, Series 7, where I think we had 2.5 hurricanes really. And so when those things happen, you as a production have to, box clever and work out how you can safely keep going and what is the morally right thing to do, as well as the contractually right thing to do to get the show made. So I think it felt like it was a good grounding for us. But obviously this is its own, unique thing. So we have plans in place for when we hope to start filming again. But we're aware that each one of those is flexible, and probably even when we finish this conversation, there'll be a press briefing that turns a few things on their head, and we go, right, okay, we need to rethink that then. So it's an exciting time.
An exciting time. Yeah, I guess, do you guys kind of have any words of wisdom, of kind of positives that you foresee, and any kind of a nice thing to share with the production community?
As I say, it's difficult because every production is so different, and I was on a call yesterday with a bunch of other producers and like heads of production and everyone talking about the issues that they're going to struggle with, you know, in terms of, you know, productions that are filming abroad, people that have got like 11 days to finish on a massive project. And that must be so frustrating because, you know, as Tim said, you know, fortunate feels like an inappropriate word, but essentially it could have been so much worse had we sort of been deeper into production than we were. So we were able to sort of put the brakes on without too much damage. I mean, I feel bad for all the freelancers that were due to come onto the project that didn't. And I hope that we can sort of get them back to work as soon as possible. But I think something that we at Red Planet and Tim and the creative team have always been very brilliant at is being sort of light on our feet and quick to adapt. We once had to rewrite an episode because we lost our lead actor, and we got a replacement out on a plane without a part at that point because the script was being rewritten whilst they were flying over there and things like that. Yeah, and to the audience, they would never have known that, and so many other things that have happened where we've had to write people out, we've had to change things, adapt, and you know, the audience, as long as it's done cleverly, the audience just don't tend to notice. But that's a fortunate situation that we have, I think, for Death in Paradise. You know, if you're sort of following an adaptation or, you know, a period drama, or you know, you're filming sort of big stunt scenes through London, and you know, that's a huge challenge in itself, and I'm sure that sort of, you know, producers are trying to think of creative solutions to those things.
I would say as well that on a positive, everyone is in the same situation, and it isn't, without wanting to get political about anything, it isn't anybody's fault. And so I think that that it has brought people together, both nationally anyway. I mean, you know, but certainly in this industry, people trying to work through things genuinely to find a way around it, trying to be fair, trying to do the decent thing, accepting that they have to protect their own part of the picture. But that sort of collaboration feels quite special. And I think also trying to use the time that we've been flung in a bizarre way, but trying to make sure that when it ends, we feel that we've used it constructively and positively, and tried to make the best of a bad situation, basically. So who knows what will happen? And Alex and I are talking a lot, and as you'd expect. And 1 minute we're just feeling hugely optimistic and thinking, oh, we'll be filming by, we reckon, the end of June, we can be up and running again. And then 2 minutes later, there's some new headline or there's a new sort of part of the puzzle drops in, and we ring each other again and go, we can't shoot this year, can we? It's just never going to happen. And so the whole thing has been like that. But nevertheless, everyone is just sort of, it feels like a genuinely sort of collaborative, supportive time, which is a good thing and a special thing, I think.
Thanks, guys. I've really enjoyed our chat today.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Commissioning Conversations. This podcast is produced, hosted and edited by Alice Redmond and Hannah Bowler. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Podbean or YouTube. In the meantime, the latest commission briefs can be found on broadcastintel.com.